some logical conclusions of the idea of evolution.
Uh-oh, we've got answers in Genesis trying to come to logical conclusions. And if they try that about anything, it's usually bad. But today, it's about evolution, so even worse. This can only be a terrible moment. I mean, they couldn't come to a logical conclusion that ice cream is probably going to be a bit cold, while they have their entire head dipped in a 12-gallon bucket of the stuff. This is either going to be extremely stupid or extremely messed up. Probably both.
Have had truly devastating results.
Yeah, I seriously doubt it, and hell, evolution is one of those fact deals, so even if the facts did have some consequence, that wouldn't stop it being a fact. I mean, sticking your hand in a fire is going to burn you. Just because fire hot doesn't stop fire hot being true, it mostly makes you a fucking idiot for sticking your goddamn hand in the thing.
And undoubtedly the most well-known is the Jewish Holocaust.
Oh my god, you frickin' people, are you serious? Are you actually doing a serious with this absolute nonsense? The Holocaust was caused by evolution. Where do I even start with how insanely wrong that is? Apart from the fact that things stated by evolutionary theory say nothing about the ideology that caused such a tragedy, but let's say that the ideas that led to the Holocaust were based on evolution. Well, the fact is that evolution is a fact. Regardless of how anyone might choose to interpret that, it's not going to change things. If there were a group of people who decided that because gravity is a fact, that means that they have to push strangers off of bridges, that wouldn't suddenly make people think, oh, I guess we shouldn't be teaching gravity anymore. You would look up the crazy arseholes for being crazy arseholes.
The final solution carried out in Nazi Germany during World War II. Although many have not made the connection.
Well, you see, there's a reason for that. There isn't one. The only people who think that there is a connection between Nazism and various scientific facts are idiots who have their own worldview that cannot stand to reason. So instead of using reason to convince people they are right, they instead make shit up about various disciplines that give people emotional reactions, because that's the only way anyone can be convinced of something so staggeringly stupid as young Earth creation or intelligent design.
Hitler had outlined his conclusion that social Darwinism was the basis for a successful Germany by as early as 1925.
Social Darwinism is not evolution. Social Darwinism is a thoroughly debunked and unscientific worldview based on a complete lack of understanding of Darwin's theories. The fact that you would even bring that up demonstrates one of two things. You either don't know that social Darwinism is something that no one of any repute teaches today because of how nonsensical it is, and thus you are ignorant f***wits, or you know that no one teaches it because of how wrong and bad and stupid it is, and decided to bring it up anyway because everyone knows how wrong it is, so you can attempt to associate it in people's mind. My god, the day we find an honest creationist is the day we find someone who just isn't a creationist.
In chapter 4 of his infamous book, Mein Kampf.
He said a lot more idiotically stupid things based on ignorance and hatred. Yeah. We have heard it all before, but again, whatever he says, even if it's evolution is my favourite subject and Charles Darwin is my senpai, it doesn't change the fact that evolution is a thing and that the theory that describes it is accurate, regardless of anyone's choices based on what they think it says. It will never change the reality of that situation.
The whole idea that a struggle for existence between the various races of man was at work, and that the fairer Aryan race was the pinnacle of evolution.
Assuming something like that is in the book, I mean, it's not like you guys are known to constantly lie, but let's just give you the benefit of the doubt. Oh look, Hitler didn't understand a goddamn thing about evolution. What a shock. Like seriously, the idea that anything is the pinnacle of evolution is an utter demonstration that they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Evolution is a process of adaptation. It is the process in which animals slowly change to be more able to survive in their environment. If the environment changes, which happens all the time, then even the most well adapted to the previous state could suddenly be completely unfit for that environment. For example, if you had a creature living in a harsh, dry desert that was very good at that, suddenly thrusting them into a nuclear winter, well, that thing is very, very likely going to die pretty much goddamn immediately. Also, yeah, Hitler, the bowl-cut, skinny geek with the crap mustache, thought he was a superior being. I'll be honest, it's a wonder anyone took him seriously as a supposed apex of evolution.
Was the intellectual scaffolding on which his entire ideology hung.
So, okay, a bad person took a scientific idea, completely butchered it and used it to do terrible things. How the would that have anything to say about the actual scientific idea other than people will misrepresent anything if it gets them what they want? You guys are a perfect example of that. I don't think there's a scientific theory out there that you guys won't chop into little pieces, leave most of it out and build a sign that says God did it in disgusting bloody viscera and then print it onto a t-shirt, proudly wandering around wearing the rest of its stinking murdered carcass as a hat.
Having personally read large portions of his work,
oof, that's not a thing you really want to be saying in polite company. Yeah, I was just reading a bit of Mein Kampf, you know, because I'm a real cool guy. And now I'm not just being some book-burning Luddite. I think even egregious shit should be allowed to continue to exist and be studied, mostly just to figure out how someone could possibly come up with such mental ideas. But it's not exactly something you want to be shouting out on the rooftops. Although the real brag here is that he can read. Although, why he wouldn't read the science he's so desperate to debunk instead of things that have nothing to do with science is anyone's guess. It's almost like he's not interested in learning real science or something like that.
I can confirm that Hitler was a fanatical Darwinist.
Well, again, assuming that's true, there's your problem right there. Fanaticism rarely leads to doing good science. Science requires methodical processes and fastidious recording, not crazy people screaming about nonsense. That's why creation scientists are, well, not really scientists. And before you start, no, there are plenty of creationist scientists who are scientists, as baffling as it may be, also creationist, but their fields are essentially never the fields that creationism, whether that be young earth or intelligent design or whatever else they're saying, well, they never have much to say about it in that regard. Isn't that strange, eh?
But this isn't just my personal biased conclusion.
And you would know. You have so many of them, don't you? You have your personal biased conclusion about the age of the earth. You have your personal biased conclusion about how the diversity of life came to be the way it is on earth. You have your personal biased conclusion about how God does the real man, and anyone who disagrees with you is some sort of degenerate subhuman who deserves infinite torture for the crime of not agreeing with you. And many, many more, I'm sure. There's so much to choose from. Now, how would that, if true, be relevant to whether or not evolution is a real thing? Or that Hitler might have thought he understood it while having no idea what the hell it was or what it was for?
All manner of Nazi literature and records of their communications has been confirmed as much many times over.
Okay, cool. Still has nothing to do with the fact that animals adapt over time to become better fit for their environment, and that we have studied this to be how life on Earth formed in the vast and interesting different ways it has. But it's not like that's what you're trying to do. I mean, to swing back to your personal biases, what this does is give you something to point at that you think shows the evolution is somehow evil. But that doesn't make any sense. Specifically for you and your God. You have an all good boy by your apparent own standards, but when you make all life on Earth and the way it is to be his doing, you are suddenly stuck with the fact that every single terrible disease caused by whatever bacteria, and even though it's not technically life but still subject to evolution, every natural virus and also every parasite, especially the ones that cause debilitating afflictions, all of them were created on purpose by your loving God. That sounds like the kind of thing a God who hated and just plain enjoyed the suffering of his creations would do. Or at the very least, one who's completely ambivalent to pain and the afflictions caused by the stuff he's done. Much better for you and your ideology to just say that God invented evolution and then let it do its thing. At least that gives him some plausible deniability, eh?
Researcher Robert Clark concluded that Adolf Hitler was captivated by evolutionary teaching.
For someone so interested in it, he clearly didn't actually bother to learn a damn thing about it. Back to the Aryan race being the best thing. Like seriously, if he knew anything, like the most basic principles of evolutionary thinking, he would know that the concept of a superior race was completely ludicrous. So I'll grant you that maybe he was inspired by what he thought evolutionary theory taught. But in that regard, he was no different from you guys, who are inspired to think that evolution is wrong and unscientific, based on literally zero understanding of what the actual science says. It's not the most flattering of comparisons to be inviting of yourselves, to be just as bad as Hitler at something. Oh.
Probably since the time he was a boy.
And he didn't learn anything more, apparently. In fact, that's the exact level of understanding you guys have about it too. I mean, hell, maybe it's good you don't believe that it's true. Because if you're right and Hitler did a Holocaust because evolution though, imagine the shit you people would do with your botched understanding. The horrors you would unleash upon the world. Although then again, you would also have to be like competent communicators, and that's rarely the case.
Evolutionary ideas, quite undisguised, lie at the basis of all that is worst in Mein Kampf.
No, they don't. What lies in all that is worst in Hitler's book of terrible ideas for assholes is hatred. He hated various groups of people and explained why using nonsensical gibberish that was emotive enough that those who also hated people thought it was peachy keen. And whatever evolutionary ideas were in that book were flawed at best, or out and out nothing to do with anything in any science ever. Again, it's a wonder that your lot don't really like the book, considering your own is filled with enough hate and unscientific emotive nonsense to fill about 20 Mein Camps and then some. Maybe you just don't want the competition.
And in his public speeches, Hitler reasoned that a higher race would always conquer a lower race.
That sounds like something he would say, but look how that worked out for him and his oh-so-amazing race of Ubermensch types. Now see, if he had actually had a decent education in biological evolution, maybe he would have understood that that's not really how it works. I mean seriously, look at these inferior ants absolutely ruining a quote-unquote superior species day.
So the systematic destruction of millions of Jews was in essence simply survival of the fittest in action.
Fucking no! No it wasn't, you absolute gigamelt brainlet arsewipe. You'll note that in the wild, no creature systematically rounds up the quote-unquote inferior species into camps and fucking gasses them to death. Never, ever, ever fucking happened. What happened in that horrific time was humans found a way to justify killing millions of people en masse for effectively no fucking reason. They weren't fitter than the other humans. They are all humans. They were just fucking crazy assholes. Survival of the fittest means those that fill a niche survive. What niche were the Nazis filling within nature exactly? Being the biggest dickheads? And I see you guys are working your way nicely into that niche yourselves.
Eliminating Jews and others, including dark-skinned and other lesser people, was not considered murder by the Nazis.
Well, you couldn't, could you? Otherwise you have to realize you're killing other humans, and humans actually don't like doing that. At least not without, you guessed it, dehumanizing them first. Also, super fucking weird that you don't bring up the fact that they had a penchant for killing homosexuals too. Not gonna start making claims about you individually, but if other creationists are anything to go by, I'm gonna guess you just didn't have a problem with that.
These lesser people were deemed less human and unworthy of life.
Well, that's the thing about idiots and their understanding of humans. There's a reason that humans aren't separated into species based on original geographic location or skin color or anything like that. It's because humans are literally all one species. Only racist dipshits who do not understand anything about biology think that it makes any sense to divide them as such. God, you know, I'm starting to think this Hitler chap was a bit of a bad egg.
Justifiably removed from the competition among the higher races.
Again, tell me exactly where anything even approaching the mechanized genocide of other animals existing in nature, or is described in anything discussing evolution as an evolutionary adaptation to allow a species to better survive. I'm going to go out on a limb and take a wild fucking guess that it says that in On Origin of Species. No, wait, I was thinking of the other one. Fucking nowhere. Although take out the mechanized part and I can tell you where slaughtering other people is a very good thing to do. It's a lesser known book called the Bible. You might have heard of it.
What many people aren't aware of
is that creationists are actually born without brains. Instead, there's a little piece of folded paper, and written inside is a list of instructions for how to install an actual brain. See, that's what happens when you go bare bones with your human installation. You forget to put in a vital component, and suddenly it's doing all sorts of shit you didn't want it to. Wait, I might be confusing creationists with personal computers. PCs are the one that are actually useful, yeah?
is that Germany had already conducted a live test run of the genocide some 50 years earlier, all based on the same materialistic philosophy, in the African country of Namibia.
Well, aside from the fact that a lot of countries did all sorts of fucked up shit in the bad old days, so yeah, would not exactly be surprising. But to call evolution a materialistic philosophy, well, frankly, it's the last straw. Evolution is not philosophical at all. It's not a worldview. It doesn't do anything a philosophy would. It is a thing that happens with a scientific theory that explains it. And your constant attempts to cast it as some sort of ideology with specific demands for what people should do to each other are entirely fictional constructs from you and your mates in order to discredit the facts that completely undermine your worldview. How about, instead of making shit up about the things that make your worldview sound kinda very extremely dumb, instead, stop believing in kinda very extremely dumb shit? Yeah? Okay.
Wait, before you go, I have something super important to tell you. It's life or death. It will change everything forever. No, wait, it's gone. Oh well, probably wasn't important. But while I have you, don't forget to comment, subscribe and notify. And if you want more of my smexy voice, check out Mrs. Six's channel, Spoonstaff Stories, where I narrate and voice all the videos, and she does the work. And if you want to support the channel, check out the merch store for cool t-shirts, or check out Patreon, memberships and PayPal to support directly. Finally, follow me on the medias of social to get completely pointless guff and to keep up on the latest releases. Oh, I just remembered what I was going to tell you. Whatever you do, don't touch the